All of that's going to have to come after my next guest, who gave New York Knicks fans one of the most memorable eras in team history, ushering in the Linsanity era. He went on to win the 2019 NBA championship with the Toronto Raptors. I'm talking about the one and only Mr. Jeremy Lin. What's going on, big time? How are you, man? How's everything?
Everything's great. How are you doing?
You did a great job.
On cloud nine.
You're damn right I'm on cloud nine. You're damn right I'm on cloud nine. And thank you, too, because, damn it, in the midst of that malaise, when we were struggling to be relevant and wondering when the hell the New York Knicks was going to do something in 2011, 2012, you showed up on the scene and did your thing. So we appreciate you, my brother. What was it like for you to watch the New York Knicks win the championship as a player that once played many, many nights at Madison Square Garden?
The Knicks are so special for many reasons, but one is really just they make you still feel a part of that organization, you know, and it's the legends, it's celebrity row, it's all these things. But to me, my affiliation with the Knicks is significantly stronger than it is with basically any other organization that I played for. So when I'm seeing these guys go and do their thing, I'm just, it's like I'm rooting for them because in reality, they were able to take the organization so much further than I ever could, or even the roster that I was on or anything. We could never create this. And we could never get even close to as far as this team has taken. And so for us, it's the decades of pain for all the fans that we just want to be able to remove and just give them this championship thing. And so really, honestly, I'm on the ride like everybody else, like all the other fans, just rooting for them.
When you think about what you saw, what was it about this New York Knicks team that made it so special than any other Knicks team we've seen in the modern era?
It's team. I think it's team and it's grit, right? The team starts with Brunson giving up $113 million. The team starts, in college, them learning how to win, then dealing with pressure, them being clear-minded and focused in the clutch and in game situation and getting used to that. But also, a lot of credit to Mike Brown coming in and, the atmosphere, the culture, the way they talk about each other. You could just feel it. You could feel they really love each other. They root for each other. Cat can have 2 points in game 5 and not care at all. Like they just don't care about their individual stats. So then the grit is just every time somebody needs to step up, somebody does, whether it's OG or Mikhail or Josh Hart, or it doesn't matter who, even Alvarado, into their bench, Clarkson all of a sudden with 10 clutch points in game 4. And so they just kind of always have somebody who steps up and makes a difference. And so really just their ability to create winning plays, that's just something that it just feels like every time it's close, it's like, no, the Knicks are going to find a way. They're going to find a way.
Coming into this series, Jeremy Lin, what was your mindset and your thought process about the Knicks going up against the San Antonio Spurs? What were you looking at? What did you see? What were your thoughts?
I'm not going to duck my initial prediction. I did not want the Spurs to win, but my initial prediction was I thought the Spurs were going to win in 6 games. And so that's not something that I'm, once you make a prediction, you got to stand on it. That's right. And again, that's not what I wanted, but that's what I thought, because the Spurs, the way that they were able to duel and outduel the Thunder, I was shocked. But the one thing as I was coming into the final, the biggest, by far and away, the biggest factor that I was looking at was Cat. And if Cat can shoot that 3 ball and Cat's shooting it 4 feet off the 3-point line with a quick trigger, Chet takes some time to get into his shot. It's a slower release and he's not as trigger happy as Cat is. And so that to me was the biggest differentiator. When they play 5 out and when they got 5 guys who can shoot, what does that mean for Wemby? And that changes the entire trajectory of the game.
Was there a key element in this series that you thought sort of changed the complexion of it? I'm wondering if so, where was it, Jeremy? Because I watched you doing a great job with Scott Van Pelt dissecting and analyzing the game. And then I'm watching the New York Knicks down by double digits in every single game. Was it something about the New York Knicks or something about the San Antonio Spurs that really stood out in your mind that made the difference, whether it be in the New York overcoming the deficit or with San Antonio surrendering the lead? What was it?
So I think in the first, the Spurs are like a plus 70 or something and through the series in first quarters. And they really used their youth to their advantage. And so one thing they did great was ball pressure and full court ball pressure. So New York had to work so hard to get into their offense. New York is starting their offense 2, 3, 4 seconds later, than the Spurs are every possession, because you have Castle, you have Vassell, you have Harper. Everybody's just pushed up and making you work. And so that was able to slow the Knicks early. But the thing that the Knicks did so well was they continued to grind and just do what they do. And versus every time the Spurs got up, it felt like they were just trying to hold on and protect the lead. And they stopped pushing the pace. And you could see it very clearly. They had multiple fourth quarters. They had multiple third quarters where they're only scoring 14 points, 16 points. Every time they kind of get down to the second half, it's almost like, let's slow it down. But the reality is they need to keep pushing the pace and playing with tempo. And that's what got them the lead. The Knicks, they're able to adjust, and huge credit to Brunson because he's so good at reading the defender. So he's able to use your physicality and your aggression against you. It's just in the first and second quarter, he's not going to expend that much energy. He's waiting until the third and the fourth to really take over. Not to say that he's not doing anything at all in the first half, but it's just saying as the game goes on, he really starts to take his aggression to another level. And so to me, it was just the experience. It was the wisdom. It was the experience. It was the tenacity of Brunson that really led the way. And then, once you kind of get him going, it's really hard to stop. And then they tried to double at times. They tried to blitz at times. They threw every coverage that they could at the Knicks, but the Knicks had everything down to a T in terms of every coverage you throw at us, we know exactly how we're going to counter it.
Well, we knew what coverage they threw at the Knicks, and definitely you got a point there, but it wasn't like they did everything they could. I found myself looking at Mitch Johnson, who I think is an exceptional young coach, but I thought he should have played Dylan Harper a bit more. I thought he should have started the offense with him more. I didn't think that it was wise for him to have Wemby running from sideline to sideline on the baseline trying to defend corner threes or I thought he needed to be a bit more adroit at making sure that the Knicks couldn't put Wemby in switch coverages, because all of that is expending energy from him. And the guy is 7'5" for crying out loud. And he hasn't been in this position before. And he's averaging nearly 40 minutes a game. And nearly, I think the number was like 11.8 minutes per fourth quarter. And there's only 12 minutes in the fourth quarter. I was wondering about those things and saying, even though he's a great young coach, there were some errors that, sorry to say, if that was Popovich there, that probably wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you with everything. From Mitch is going to be a great coach, phenomenal season, the biggest turnaround. Nobody saw this coming, and so a ton of credit to him. A ton of credit. At the same time, when you do get to this level, and when you are playing for these stakes, the credit and the criticism can both exist. And to me, I think he would love to have many things back, including what you said, right? Like Harper, I still don't understand his time, his usage. He has to not just be on the floor, he has to have the ball in his hands coming down the stretch, and I understand you want to roll with certain guys, but at the end of the day, especially in the finals, it's when a guy has it going, you have to ride the hot hand and you have to ride that momentum. I think that's what Mike Brown did so well. Clarkson, you're giving us some good minutes. Shamet, you're giving us some good minutes. And it wasn't they were all doing it at the same time. It was Shamet game going into, and then, you got into a little bit of Clarkson, and then you got a little bit of Alvarado, and you're able to kind of mix it and match. But at the end of the day, Harper, to me, was the most poised Spur of all of them. Yeah, it never looked like he didn't know what was happening, and he had a counter. He plays with such poise. He's able to get where he wants to go. I totally agree with you on the defensive side of things. Wemby seemed completely gassed out. I felt like there were even times when they could have double teamed Brunson earlier. Almost what you thought the Lakers do to Shea, where it's just like, look, you scored 7 in a row. I'm not going to let you get going. Yep. His usage of Carter Bryant, there's many small things where I'm like, man, I bet he would change a lot of things. holistically though, if you could tell him like, hey, this is what your season's gonna look like, I think it's a 9 out of 10. But, but
30 game improvement.
Win the championship, you got to get that 10 out of 10.
30 game improvement and no playoff appearance to 62 games, from 32 wins to 62 wins, and a berth in the NBA Finals. Clearly, the man's done a great job, and he's growing pains, and I think he'll be better off for it. But let me juxtapose that to Mike Brown, because you watched the New York Knicks over the last few years led by Tom Thibodeau. What did you see differently from the New York Knicks this year that you didn't see last year?
I think multiple things. I think the obvious one that everyone's kind of talking about is how they unlock a new aspect, a new dimension of Cat's game. And so him being able to be a facilitator and kind of in that Jokic, I'm catching at the 3-point line, or catching at the, at the free throw line, and able to, dime it up and get a bunch of assists and just that. But to me, the biggest difference is the bench. You can't really win a championship without role players continuously contributing, and his ability. And there was a game 4, he had 12 deep, and he used 7 bench players.
Yeah.
And it just felt like down the stretch, the Knicks were more poised. And part of that is the experience, but I would love to also believe that part of that is their usage, their minutes, and trusting friction guide. I don't think that Thibodeau would have used an Alvarado in game 4 alongside Brunson, and all of a sudden you have 8 fourth quarter points and the greatest comeback in NBA playoff history. And I kind of alluded to earlier in terms of whether it's McBride or Mitchell Robinson, it goes down the line. We trusted the bench, and it was very clear. Everybody who came in there, nobody was shot. I didn't see one player come in from the New York side that was like, oh no, I'm not allowed to shoot the ball, or I'm not going to trust my offensive game. They were all letting it rip, and they were free. And that's a huge credit to Mike Brown. How can you get your players to be free and to be joyful and to not overthink or not look over the shoulder in the NBA Finals? That's a tough thing to do. So he was able to unlock that. And I think, those 7 points here, 8 points here, that's a game changer.
Last couple of questions for you here. You picked the San Antonio Spurs, like you said, to win this series. You didn't want them to win, but you picked them to win this series. Now that they've lost, are they the favorites next year, or is it an Oklahoma City team that's expected to have Jalen Williams and AJ Mitchell back?
Ooh, that's a great question. I would say they are the favorites, but barely. I'd be like 51-49. OKC was not healthy. I think Chet is somebody who will make big jumps. He was, and he deserves all the criticism that he got, but he is also somebody to me that has shown to continuously overcome through his life. And so I do believe he will get better.
Okay.
I do believe they will make adjustments, and they also have a different level of hunger. Also, they weren't healthy. Having Jalen and AJ is a huge hit on the Thunder. So I would give the Spurs a very, very slight edge.
Speaking of the New York Knicks, last question to you. Oklahoma City, San Antonio, Minnesota, Houston, Denver, to a lesser degree, LA. Who knows what they're going to do? You got Detroit, Boston, Cleveland in the Eastern Conference. If you're the New York Knicks, do you remain intact and run it back? Or do you look at the landscape of the NBA and tweak your roster a little bit, even if it means one of these dudes have to go?
I mean, I keep the core, right? Like, I think you got to keep the core intact. They have something great going, and they've really figured out that. So your first 5, I don't think should be touched.
Right.
But I would love like one piece that I think would be really beneficial, or maybe 2 pieces I think would be really beneficial for the Knicks, is maybe somebody that can bring playmaking off the bench. And it doesn't have to be somebody who's going to shoot and score a lot, but just somebody who can do a little bit of everything, but initiate that offense. Because Brunson, as good as he is, his usage rate and how much he had to dribble to get what he needed, it looked exhausting and it was tough. And I'm glad they got it done in 5 because you go 6, you go 7, so you're going to get more and more fatigued. But I would love to see that. And then maybe just another person to come in and really hound the opponent 9-4 feet. And I know they have that already with some of their core guys, but even off the bench, there were some guys who I would love to see someone just really come in and just 94 feet, but also like prime time knockdown shooter. I do think they were kind of in a situation where they're figuring out, like, do I want offense or do I want defense coming off the bench? But they could find one that kind of has that all together. That would be amazing.
Jeremy Lin, appreciate you, my man. Thanks a lot for the great analysis. Enjoyed seeing you during the playoffs and the finals, man. You take care of yourself, and I'll see you down the road, all right?
Yes, sir, Stephen A. Thank you.
All right. One and only Jeremy Lin right here with Stephen A. Sirius XM Mad Dog Sports Radio. 888 Mad Dog 6 is always the number to call up. That's 888-623-3646.